thank you for having me here today. I'm really looking forward to today's session and talking about something that I am really passionate about. Before I dive in, to give you a little bit of background about me, I work on SEO at Marriott and Ritz-Carlton. Marriott is one of the largest hotel companies in the world. My background is in both SEO and web analytics, and prior to Marriott, I worked at Macy's.com to help scale SEO using analytics. We're here today because SEO is complicated both on the marketing side and on the analytics side. So the goal today is if we can understand the challenges better, we can get to a place where SEO is more measurable. So if we can work together to solve these challenges, we'll be able to better fine-tune our SEO strategy using more enhanced analytics to meet your company's objectives. So the challenges that I've experienced working on both analytics and SEO teams are, one, the implementation of your analytics tool impacts your SEO reporting. So for example, implementation errors, 302 redirects, cross-domain tracking, and A/B tests. All of these can potentially impact your organic search attribution in your reporting. The second challenge is from a data quality perspective. So you could be impacted by working with your analytics vendors and how SEO segmentation is being addressed by those vendors. And then on the analytics team, there could be different terminology and a lot of misunderstanding of SEO. And then finally, secure search. So obviously encrypted Google searches don't pass keyword data to your analytics tool anymore. So in this current environment, where there's no keyword data and analytics tools, how do we optimize given these challenges? Well, I find myself asking two main questions. One, how do we better understand keyword rankings and landing page performance? And two, what view of our data can we actually use to audit and identify problem areas of our site? How do we figure this out, and what do we do, and how do we actually get there? Well, one potential solution is integrating your data with BrightEdge. So this is a solution that's worked for us, and maybe you can apply this also to your job. What does this mean exactly? Well, you're going to have to prep your data for integration. So a lot of this is upfront work prepping your data. So part of prepping your data is, one, you'll have to really partner with your analytics team to define your reporting requirements, and you're going to have to use direct metrics. And we'll go into direct metrics more a bit later. Step two, you'll also need to partner with your analytics teams to really create accurate segments in terms of what is SEO for the company and what pages does it actually touch. And then step three, once you prep the data, you want to make sure that it's ready and it's been QA'd for integration. So a little bit more about the direct metrics I referred to in the previous slide. This is in the prep work. So this is a really big factor. So I want to spend a slide on it because it can really sway the outcome in the sense where you can either give more or less credit to SEO. And the thing is, we don't want to give more or less credit to SEO. We want to give the most accurate credit. So this is about accurate measurement, and direct metrics speaks to the outcome of SEO itself on a certain page versus the outcome of SEO as a factor on multiple pages. So in my case, we view direct metrics as a better way to measure SEO for leveraging the BrightEdge integration. So let's dive into these concepts in more detail. Typically, analytics tools will typically have two different types of metrics. They're commonly referred to as direct metrics or associated, or also known as participation metrics. Direct metrics give credit to the first entry page of a visit. So an example of this is if you search for a hotel on Google, you enter Marriott.com on a landing page, you then browse a total of 5 pages in your visit, and you book a hotel room for $100. Using direct metrics, you're going to see a report that says, we booked $100. Now, if we look at participation metrics, this gives credit to every page browsed in a visit. So an example of this is, again, you search for a hotel on Google, You enter Marriott.com on a landing page, you browse a total of 5 pages in your visit, and you book a room for $100. Now your analytics tool actually reports $500. So that's a large discrepancy between how you report on direct metrics and how you report on participation metrics. So you have to be very careful about how you ask your analytics team to set up your reports and what types of metrics you actually need to pull. So a little bit deeper about segments and how they can be complicated. So this is just an example and an illustration of how we have set up a segment at Marriott. So basically, you really need to know the business logic, and you really need to work with your analytics team to align on the business logic to isolate different parts of your site in order to pull the correct data. So you really need to work together with your analytics team to make sure there's agreement on what the segment needs to be, and it's a lot easier to fix any of these data issues during the prep work up front versus after the fact. So a continuation of the segments conversation is now we want to make sure we focus on the actual data that we're prepping to integrate with BrightEdge. So I want to caveat that every analytics tool is different. So these are general guidelines to take back to your analytics teams. But in general, within a best practice for an SEO segment, you need to make sure that your marketing channel is defined as natural or organic search. If you're using tracking parameters in Google My Business or in Yext, include those in this segment. You need to align with your analytics team on whatever attribution window they're using, whether it be 7-day last click, 30-day last click, multi-touch attribution. If you need to define device type, make sure you do it correctly. There's some interesting business logic in how you define device type depending on the tool that you use. And then finally, make sure that you're defining direct metrics by defining an action that happens only once per visit. And typically in most analytics tools, that's going to be your entry page. So if you literally include a line that says entry page contains or starts with the URL string, that will ensure that you're getting direct metrics. So once you've partnered with your analytics team, you now need to have them create the reports and QA the data. So I really recommend trying to follow BrightEdge's recommended report setup if you can, if your analytics tool supports it. Your mileage may vary depending on how well your analytics team has actually set up your analytics tool. In some cases, you may need to leverage any number of tools with your vendor. You just really need to better understand what is possible from your analytics team. Your analytics team needs to determine which tool is going to be the path of least resistance to actually create these reports. So at Marriott, we use Adobe. So we have probably 4 or 5 different tools that we could reference. And part of my job was advising on determining which tool we could use and should use to really find that path of least resistance. And then finally, once the reports are created, make sure you QA and sanity check your data so that it makes sense, and so that later on, once you integrate the data, you can actually compare apples to apples, and that you can speak the same language with your analytics team and with senior leadership on SEO performance. So now that we have our data, it's time to integrate with BrightEdge. So step 1, you'll need to engage with your BrightEdge integration team. Step 2, the integration team will backfill the data from your analytics tool. Typically, you'll look at 2 weeks of data. You'll do another round of QA, and then step 3, BrightEdge will then launch your final page-level reporting, page-level reports with analytics data. So after integration, you have a more solid interlocking of analytics data with ranking data. So in this example, we now see a 30,000-foot view of blended rank in blue and room nights in yellow. And you can see here, our team has done fairly well with aligning the two, with the exception of there was something that occurred around the middle of November. So as a marketer, if I'm monitoring this weekly, when I have this view with better interlocking data from my analytics tool and our ranking data from BrightEdge, I'm able to now use this data together to better understand how we're performing and then open up discussions with the SEO team. So now after the integration, how do we better uncover our ranking data and landing page performance in one view? Well, BrightEdge page level reporting does this for you by integrating your analytics data at the most granular level. So by page URL, you're now going to be able to hone in and match your ranking data with your analytics data to see how you're performing on the KPIs selected. So with Marriott, it's visits and room nights. These are the most important metrics from an SEO perspective that we look at when we're combining that with visibility. So in this example, we see that our pet-friendly hotel page has an average blended rank of 11, and we've also pulled in visits and room nights. We have about 1,700 visits and 40 room nights. So really at the most granular level here, you're going to have better visibility into your page level performance by exposing your ranking and analytics data in page level reporting. Now in practice, how do we use all this data to understand keyword performance and identify problem areas of your site? Well, you need to combine your data sources from BrightEdge into a view that you can use. So step one, pull your data from your keyword report in BrightEdge. So you can see here that I'm pulling our keyword report for our pet-friendly hotels page. This gives me the keyword, the search volume, and the URL. Step two, crawl your pages to capture your metadata. So get your page title, your meta description in H1. So in this example, I use Screaming Frog to crawl the pet-friendly hotels page and pull the metadata for this page. Step three is pull your newly created page level reporting. So this will include your analytics data and your visibility. So you pull that down, and then you're going to have your average blended rank, your visits, your room nights, whatever metric your company actually uses. And then step four, you're going to combine these data sets. So we're taking our keyword report from BrightEdge, we're combining it with our metadata from Screaming Frog, and we're taking our newly created page reporting from BrightEdge with our analytics data. And so we've combined these data sets here into one view using VLOOKUPs, querying off of the URL. So in this example, I'm looking at keyword performance for our pet-friendly hotels, and we see in red we've lost 5 positions, and we also see a corresponding decrease in both visits and room nights. Now in yellow, in the metadata section, I'm able to see that our metadata changed with the last site release. So it looks like the page title and the H1 fell off the page during a site release. So now the benefit of this approach is that you now have a way to infer and correlate keyword rankings and landing page performance. You now have a way to audit and identify problem areas of your site all in one view. And you can now see the business impact through page level integration and use this data to make your business case for site enhancements and metadata updates. Thank you.